Have you ever wished you could see through people, not in a magical way, but in a psychological one? To truly understand what someone really means, even when they're not saying it. Welcome to the science and art of reading people like a psychologist. Today, we'll explore how to decode body language, facial expressions, speech patterns, and even what people don't say, to see beyond the surface. Let's dive in. Chapter 1. The psychology behind reading people. First, a mythbuster. Reading people isn't about mind reading or guessing their next move. It's about observing patterns, understanding context, and applying psychological principles. Psychologists use a skill called clinical observation, noticing not just what a person says, but how they behave, how consistent they are, and what emotions leak through their actions. Real-life example. Think about a time when your friend said, "I'm fine," but their voice cracked, they avoided eye contact, and their shoulders drooped. You didn't need a PhD to sense they weren't really fine. You picked up on nonverbal cues, which leads us to Chapter 2. Mastering nonverbal cues. Research shows that up to 93% of communication is nonverbal. That includes body language, facial expression, eye movement, tone of voice. Let's break that down. 1. Posture and movement. People who are confident tend to take up more space, shoulders back, chin up. Those who are anxious may shrink themselves, crossed arms, hunched shoulders. Example. At a job interview, a candidate enters the room with slouched shoulders, avoids shaking hands, and sits on the edge of the chair. Even before they speak, they've already signaled nervousness or insecurity. 2. Facial expression. The face can reveal micro-expressions, fleeting emotional flashes that last less than half a second. These are nearly impossible to fake. Tip from psychology. Watch the initial reaction on someone's face when they're surprised or confronted. A forced smile usually arrives late and fades quickly. 3. Eye contact. Too little eye contact can signal discomfort or dishonesty. Too much, it can feel intense or even aggressive. Psychologist trick. When someone is recalling something true, their eyes tend to drift upward or to the side. When fabricating, their eyes often shift differently, though this varies by individual. Chapter number 3. Listening like a therapist. Psychologists don't just listen to words. They listen to tone, pace, pauses, contradictions. Exercise. Next time someone speaks, focus entirely on their tone and pacing. Are they rushing through? Speaking softly? Emphasizing certain words. Example. Your coworker says, "Yeah, the project's going great." But they say it flatly, avoid your gaze, and quickly change the subject. There's a disconnect between their words and delivery. That's called incongruence, a big red flag in psychology. Therapist tip. When someone pauses often or repeats certain phrases like, "I guess" or "maybe," they may be uncertain or hiding doubt. That's your cue to dig deeper. Chapter number 4. Context is everything. One of the biggest mistakes people make when trying to read others is ignoring context. Psychologists never interpret a behavior in isolation. Example. A person tapping their foot rapidly during a conversation. Are they anxious? Impatient? Or did they just drink a triple espresso? You need to know. Where are they? Who are they with? What just happened? Case study. A teacher notices that a student suddenly becomes quiet and withdrawn. The wrong assumption is that the student is disinterested. The right approach: consider that something may have happened outside of school, family issues, mental health, or bullying. Always ask yourself, is this behavior unusual for this person in this setting? Chapter number 5, The Power of Baseline. Every psychologist starts by establishing a baseline. What's normal for that person? Once you know someone's baseline behavior, you can spot deviations that matter. Example: if your colleague is usually upbeat and talkative, and suddenly they're quiet and distant, something has changed. But if someone is always reserved and quiet, that same behavior means nothing new. Practical tip: observe people when they're relaxed or happy. That's their default. Compare everything else to that baseline. Chapter number 6, Spotting Inconsistencies and Micro-Leaks. People try to hide things, but the body often leaks the truth. These are called micro-leaks, brief, often unconscious signs of how a person really feels. Watch for a nod that doesn't match what they're saying, a sudden gulp or lip press when asked a tough question, feet pointing away from the conversation. Example: you ask someone if they're okay with your plan, and they say sure, but their feet are turned toward the door, and their arms are tightly crossed. Their body is screaming, "I want to leave." Psychologists tune into these tiny mismatches, and so can you. Chapter number 7, Words matter, but how they're used matters more. Yes, words are important, especially how they're used. Psychologists look for repetition. Are they repeating a point unnecessarily? Avoidance. Are they dodging certain topics? Choice of words. Are they using passive phrases like "I guess," "I think," or "maybe" when more certainty is expected? Example: imagine a partner saying, "I didn't technically lie to you." That qualifier, "technically," is a huge red flag. It suggests they're bending the truth. Chapter 8, Empathy, Your Superpower. Reading people isn't just about catching lies or analyzing gestures. It's about connection. Psychologists practice empathic accuracy, trying to genuinely understand what someone else is feeling. Practical exercise. Next time you're in a conversation, ask yourself, if I were them, how would I feel right now? Empathy gives you insight that data alone can't provide. Chapter 9, When You're Not Sure, Ask. Here's a surprising truth: even psychologists don't always get it right. That's why they ask questions, open-ended, gentle ones. Instead of assuming, ask, "You seem a little off today. Want to talk about it?" When you said that, I noticed you hesitated. What was on your mind? Sometimes the best way to read someone is to let them tell you. Closing. Becoming a people reader takes practice. Reading people like a psychologist isn't about being manipulative or overanalyzing everyone. It's about becoming more aware, more empathetic, and more attuned to the silent stories people tell. Here's a quick recap. Watch for body language and facial cues. Listen beyond words. Understand context. Know personal baseline. Look for inconsistencies. Practice empathy. Ask when unsure. Example: imagine walking into a meeting, and instead of being caught off guard by tension or silence, you notice it. You ask the right questions. You respond calmly. And just like that, you become the person everyone feels seen by. That's the power of psychological insight. If you found this helpful, hit that like button, subscribe for more psychology and self-improvement insights. And remember, when you learn to read others well, you also learn to understand yourself better. Thanks for watching.